everyone, a very warm welcome to the thorough newspaper analysis. And this video is for the 7th and the 8th of December. Now let's quickly head to the agenda for today. First of all, we have this article from Indian Express, the title of which is Who is a Citizen Who is an Illegal Immigrant? Questions before Supreme Court in Assam Citizenship Act case. See, in this article, we're essentially going to address the challenge which is before the apex court with respect to Assam Accord, the National Register of Citizen, the different cut-off dates, and the questions pertaining to the migration of the influx of migrants, in fact, from Bangladesh into the northeastern states and particularly the state of Assam. This is going to be followed by the news update segment for today, and lastly, we're going to have a look at important legal news. So let's start with the context of this article. See, recently on 5th of December, a 5-judge constitution bench of the apex court, it began hearing challenge to Section 6A of the Citizenship Act. This section, it essentially was introduced in the statute following the signing of the Assam Accord. We've already, if you remembered, we did a TNA on Assam Accord a couple of days back, and there I explained as to why this accord was signed, what is the historical background of it, what are some of the important dates, and what do those dates signify with respect to the rights that you get when you enter into the state of Assam post such and such date. So, as we've already discussed, we had discussed that there was a lot of migrants who were coming from from East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, into the northeastern states and especially Assam. So, as a result, there was a lot of apprehension within the indigenous people. And it was their claim that if this continues, then this is going to dilute our identity, the statehood that we have, and this is going to also have repercussions on the economy, on the polity of the state. The job market is also going to be adversely affected. So therefore there was a 6-year long agitation, and the center stage of that agitation, it was led by students, and as a result of it, the center had to cave in, and the center had to enter into an accord with those student leader unions. So signed in 1985 between the Rajiv Gandhi government and the All Assam Students Union, the accord, it culminated a 6-year long agitation against the entry of migrants from Bangladesh into the state of Assam. So crucially, the ongoing hearing by a bench which is headed by the Honorable Chief Justice of India, it will involve questions of citizenship of illegal immigrants and rights of indigenous Assamese citizens in Assam. So what are some of these questions that we're going to take up for discussion later in this article itself? Now let's see as to what is the challenge. The plea before the Constitution bench, it essentially challenges one of the core elements of the accord. This element, it determines who is a foreigner in the state. So this was also the basis of the National Register of Citizen in Assam, which was published in 2019. There is a clause in this accord which state that January 1, 1966, it shall serve as the base cut-off date for detection and deletion of foreigners. But there is also a provision which provides for regularization of those migrants who've arrived into the state of Assam after 1st of Jan 1966, but up till March 24, 1977. So if you've come up till 1st Jan 1966, there is going to be detection and deletion, and you are termed as foreigner. But if you come between this state and this state, so then there is going to be a provision whereby you can go and regularize yourself. Then Section 6A of the Citizenship Act, it was inserted as an amendment to amend this. It effectively establishes 24th March as the cutoff date for entry into the state, meaning that those entering the state after that, they would be considered illegal immigrants. So while those who came to Assam on or after 1st Jan, but before 25th March 1971 from Bangladesh, they will be detected as foreigners, they would have the opportunity to register themselves according to the rules which are made by the central government. So you're going to be detected as foreigner, but you're going to be given an option to regularize yourself. And what do you get in return for regularization? So, except for being included in the electoral rolls, they would be granted the same rights, the same obligations as that of an Indian citizen for a period of 10 years from the date they were detected as foreigners. And at the end of this 10-year period, however, they would be deemed as citizens. So, why is Section 6A under challenge? The plea before the bench, while questioning the constitutional validity of Section 6A, it wants 1951 as the base cutoff date for inclusion in the National Register of Citizens instead of 1971. The primary petitioner in this case is Assam Sammilata Mahasangh, which is an organization which claims to advocate for the rights, which claims that it is advocating for the rights of the indigenous communities in Assam. The core and the crux of their argument is that by establishing different cutoff date for Indian citizens in Assam than the rest of India, which is July 1948, Section 6A, it is discriminatory, it is arbitrary and illegal, and therefore it violates the right of the indigenous Assamese people. Their petition, which was filed in 2012, it states that the application of Section 6A to the state of Assam alone, it has led to a perceptible change in the demographic pattern of the state, and it has reduced the people of Assam to a minority in their very own state. Further, the petition states that the same is detrimental to the economic and the political well being of the state, and it acts as a potent force against the cultural survival, political control, and employment opportunities of the people. When the final NRC in Assam was released in 2019, the working president of ASM, who is Mathur Rahman, said that the body it is looking to an order which is passed by a two-judge bench led by the then CJI, the Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, as a possibility that the NRC can be updated according to the terms requested by them. The order it was passed on December 13, 2019, it states, and I quote, we make it clear that subject to orders as may be passed by the Constitution Bench in these two writ petitions, the NRC will be updated. The president further said, by selling on the date of Bangladesh's independence in violation of the constitution, the AASU, it has gone against the indigenous tribes of Assam by favoring the 70-80 lakh Hindu and Muslim Bengalis and Nepalese who fled from East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, over the course of those years and illegally occupied the lands of indigenous tribes and government lands. So, what are the constitutional issues involved in these batch of petitions? While hearing the 2012 pleas by the ASM, a two-judge bench of the Supreme Court consisting of Honorable Justice Ranjan Gogoi, Honorable Justice Rohington, they had framed 13 questions on Section 6A for deliberation by a constitution bench in an order which was passed in 2014 December. So let's see what are these questions. The first of the 13 questions is whether Articles 10 and 11 of the Constitution, whether they permit the enactment of Section 6A of the Citizenship Act in as much as Section 6A in prescribing a cutoff date which is different from the cutoff date prescribed in Article 6 can do so without a variation in Section 6 itself. regards in particular being had to the phraseology of Article 4, Clause 2, read with Article 368, Clause 1. Whether Section 6A it violates Articles 325 and 26 of the Constitution, in that it has diluted the political rights of the citizens of the state of Assam. The third question is, what is the scope of fundamental rights contained in Article 29, Clause 1, and is the fundamental right absolute in its term? In particular, what is the meaning of these two expressions, which is culture and conserve? Whether Section 6A it violates Article 29, Clause 1. Next question, whether Section 6A violates Article 355. What is the true interpretation of this article? Would an influx of illegal migrants in a state of India constitute external aggression and or internal disturbance? Does the expression state, which is occurring in this article, refer only to a territorial region, or does it also include the people living in the state, which would include their culture and their identity? Whether Section 6A it violates Article 14, the equality provision, in that it singles out Assam from the other border states which comprise a distinct class and discriminates against it. So essentially they're claiming that like are treated unlike. Also, whether there is no rational basis for having a separate cutoff date for regularizing illegal immigrants who enter Assam as opposed to the rest of the country, because we've already seen that these dates they differ. And next question is whether Section 6A violates Article 21, in that the lives and the personal liberty of citizens of Assam they have been affected adversely by a massive influx of illegal migrants from Bangladesh. Whether delay is a factor that can be taken into account in molding relief under a petition which is filed under Article 32 of the Constitution. Whether after a large number of migrants from East Pakistan have enjoyed rights as citizens of India for over 40 years, any relief can be given in the petitions filed in the present cases. Whether Section 6A violates the basic premise of the Constitution and the Citizenship Act, in that it permits citizens who have allegedly not lost their citizenship of East Pakistan to become deemed citizens of India and thereby conferring dual citizenship. And I'm sure all of us are aware that we follow single citizenship. Next question is whether Section 6A violates the fundamental basis of Section 5, Clause 1, Proviso, Subsection 1, Proviso, and Section 5, Subsection 2 of the Citizenship Act, as it stood back in 1985, in that it permits a class of migrants to become deemed citizens of India without any reciprocity from Bangladesh and without taking oath of allegiance to the Indian Constitution. Whether the Migrants Expulsion from Assam Act of 1950 being a special enactment qua, that is to say, so far as immigrants into Assam are concerned, alone can apply to migrants from East Pakistan or Bangladesh to the exclusion of the General Foreigners Act and the Foreigners Tribunal Order of 1964 made thereunder. Whether Section 6A it violates the rule of law, in that it gives way to political expediency and not to government which is established according to law. Whether Section 6A it violates fundamental rights, in that no mechanism it is provided to determine which persons are ordinarily resident in Assam since the dates for their entry into Assam, thus granting deemed citizenship to such persons arbitrarily. So it is going to be, in fact, a very interesting case to follow, because a lot of questions are going to be answered which have relation to the citizenship aspects in the constitution, and then the entire matter of NRC, Assam Accord, and what are going to be the purport of these articles. And this, in fact, is also an important article which provides for what we, in the common parlance, called state emergency, the failure of constitutional machinery in a state, and the phraseology employed in Article 4, and whether it is an amendment in terms of this whenever law in these articles is brought. So there is going to be a lot of discussion around all of these important concepts. And now we proceed to the next segment. And with this, we proceed to the national news. And here's the first update. Garba, which is the traditional dance of Gujarat, it has been included in UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list. UNESCO has approved the inclusion of Gujarat's traditional Garba dance in its representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. India had nominated Garba, which is performed across Gujarat and also in other parts of our country, especially during the festival of Navratri, for inclusion in this list. This inclusion, it was made under the 2003 convention, which is called the Convention for Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage, during the 18th meeting of the Intergovernmental Committee for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. Garba is the 15th ICH element from India to join this list. This inscription, it underscores Garba's pivotal role as a unifying force that fosters social and gender inclusivity. Ambuja Cements, it completes acquisition of Sanghi Industries at rupees 5,185 crore. Ambuja Cements, it has announced the completion of this acquisition of Sanghi Industries Limited at an enterprise value of rupees 5,185 crore. This is higher than the earlier expected value of rupees 5,000 crore. As part of the deal's completion, Ambuja Cements, it also executed a trade to acquire 54.51% of the voting share capital from the promoters of Sanghi Industries. Further, Ambuja Cements, it also agreed to lend an additional rupees 1,800 plus crores to Sanghi Industries under an inter-corporate deposit agreement, and this was for the repayment of outstanding amounts in relation to the credit facilities which have been availed by Sanghi Industries. In August, Ambuja Cements, it had approved a provision of an inter-corporate deposit to Sanghi Industries of an amount not exceeding rupees 300 crore. Next up, we have an update with respect to the Men's Volleyball Club World Championship for the year 2023. Prime Volleyball League champions, Ahmedabad Defenders, they put a very spirited fight against their Brazilian counterpart team, which is the Itambe Minas, but they lost 3-0 in their opening Pool A match of the FIVB Volleyball Club World Championship 2023, which is now undergoing in Bangalore for the very first time in India. Ahmedabad Defenders, who also became the first Indian volleyball club to play in the prestigious Men's Volleyball Club World Championship, it took the fight to Minas, their Brazilian counterpart, and forced the Brazilian team to dig a deep for 3-0 win. The club championship, it commenced at the Koramangala Indoor Stadium in Bangalore and Bangalore. And as I've already mentioned, this is the first time that this prestigious tournament will be held in India. The 5-day tournament, it will see 6 teams compete for the top honors. Indian Army hosts Inno Yodha 2023 for innovation and modernization. The Indian Army, it held Ideas and Innovation Competition and Seminar, which is called Inno Yodha 2023 in New Delhi. This event it aimed at signifying the importance which is accorded by the Indian Army in embracing modernization and pursuing technological advancement through indigenization. Addressing the gathering on the occasion, the Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey, he appreciated the creativity and the ingenuity of the inventors, the innovators. He encouraged the thinking warriors in the Indian Army to continue conceptualizing practical and innovative solutions for the nation and the Indian Army. General Pandey he also felicitated 22 innovations which were displayed at the event. The Indira Gandhi National Open University of Kenya, they've signed a strategic MOU to enhance the learning experience for students. The collaboration it focuses on the many areas including facilitating students and faculty mobility, incorporating cutting edge technology for teaching and learning, capacity building programs for the Open University of Kenya staff, curriculum development which is aligned with market needs, sharing expertise in e-learning platforms, joint research and development initiatives, and many more. As part of this program, the Kenyan delegates they also visited the Electronic Media Production Center of IGNOU and they lauded the initiatives of the university. Next up, we have an update with respect to the Forbes list of the most powerful women in the world. So Italy's Prime Minister and India's Finance Minister, they've also featured in this particular list. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, they featured among the world's most powerful women of 2023. So while the Prime Minister of Italy, she was ranked at the fourth position, the Finance Minister of India, she featured at the 32nd spot. As far as the parameters and the main metrics of this selection is concerned, as per Forbes, it said that these are the four parameters: money, media, impact, and spheres of influence. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, she topped the Forbes list, and she's followed by women leaders like the European Central Bank's President Christine Lagarde and the US Vice President Kamala Harris. Also, for those who are interested in pop culture, the pop star Taylor Swift, she was also listed in the world's in this particular list at the fifth position for the most powerful women in 2023. Now let's see why the Italian Prime Minister she featured on the list. So she took office in 2022 October, which is last year, and she became the first woman in the modern history to hold that role. The president of Italy's right-wing Brothers of Italy party since March of 2014, Meloni's role, it has been consequential in ensuring Italy's exit from the Chinese expansionist project, which is called the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. In fact, this is our next story in the international segment today itself. But the most notable moment of her political prominence is the constitutional reforms that she backed in November this year itself, and she backed the proposal to allow direct election of prime minister in a nearly presidential manner. As far as Nirmala Sitharaman is concerned, she helms over the world's fifth largest economy, and after former Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj's death in 2019 and the toning down of the portfolio of Smriti Irani, Sitharaman, she is the most senior female figure in the cabinet today. Finance Minister since 2019, she is a member of Rajya Sabha, which is the upper house of Indian Parliament. And this has brought us to the international segment, and here we have an update in the sports segment. Inter Miami's Lionel Messi named Time Athlete of the Year. Lionel Messi has been named the Time magazine's Athlete of the Year for 2023 after his move to the United States to join Major League Soccer side Inter Miami. Messi made his debut from the Florida-based franchise in July, and he announced his arrival by scoring a free kick in the final minute to give his side a 2-1 victory. Since then, he has had a profound impact on the MLS. In October, he claimed a record extending eighth Ballon d'Or crown after he guided Argentina to World Cup victory in Qatar last year. Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI, Italy pulls out of the flagship Chinese project. It will pull out of China's flagship Belt and Road Initiative, the government has confirmed. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's administration notified Beijing that it would cease participation in the BRI ahead of a deadline at the year's end. Italy was the only major Western nation to sign up to the BRI, one of China's most prestigious trade and infrastructure project in 2019. The move, which was highly criticized by the US and others at the time, China's project, it has been criticized from the start by the US as an example of debt trap diplomacy. Washington stated that China's plan it involved unsustainably large projects that countries are unable to finance, giving Beijing leverage for its own aims. Italy was the largest of the 18 EU members, particularly in the east and the south of the continent, to have signed up for the BRI. The country's BRI membership it was due to renewal automatically in March next year, unless Italy notified China that it was withdrawing by the end of this year. The current Prime Minister, she had previously called a former government's decision to join a serious mistake and indicated that she was minded to withdraw. But her government emphasized that it was seeking to maintain good relations with China despite the move. Alberto Fujimori, Peru's divisive former president, is released from jail. Peru's former president, Alberto Fujimori, he has been released from prison in the country's capital, having spent more than 15 years incarcerated. The nation's constitutional courts reinstated a presidential pardon, which was issued 6 years ago to the 85-year-old. What is this presidential pardon? That we'll discuss here. He has been a highly divisive figure, having been jailed for corruption and human rights violations while in office. The former president, he has been serving a 25-year-old prison sentence at the time of his pardon. To his supporters, see, in the title itself, we've said, he is a divisive former president. So why divisive? Because for his followers and supporters, he was the president who saved Peru from the twin evils of terrorism and economic hardships and collapse. While his opponents claim that he is an authoritarian strongman who rode roughshod over the country's democratic institutions in order to preserve his hold on power. Son of Japanese immigrants, Fujimori's decade in power from 1990 to 2000, in which he ruled with an iron fist, it was marked by a series of dramatic turns and twists. His authoritarian government's crackdown on two violent insurgencies during his tenure resulted in death of an estimated 69,000 people. So this is the human rights violation case here. Several years after his presidency ended, he was found guilty of bribery and abuse of power and sentenced to 25 years in prison for human rights abuse during his time in office, including authorizing a number of killings carried out by death squads. In December 2017, he was taken from prison to hospital owing to his health concerns, and the same month, he was granted a pardon by the president after doctors said his illness was incurable, adding that the prison represented a grave risk to his life. So, hence, the pardon was given, and now the Constitutional Court reinstated this presidential pardon, and hence this release. And this has brought us to the legal updates, where we have an update from the Apex Court. Recently, the Supreme Court observed that while granting anticipatory bail to the accused husband under Section 498A of the IPC, cruelty, a condition that the husband shall take his wife to his house and maintain and honor her, it cannot be imposed. So, what essentially happened in this case was that the accused husband, appellant, he had applied for anticipatory bail before the High Court of Jharkhand, though the High Court granted him the bail, but it imposed a peculiar condition. Why peculiar? Because it was not seen before, and it had nothing to do with the bail condition that are usually imposed. So usually what we see is that whenever bail is granted, there are conditions like, you're not going to travel somewhere without informing, or you're going to follow the law and order, then you're not going to tamper with the evidence, you're going to appear, most importantly, whenever called upon to do so. So this was a peculiar condition. Though the High Court had granted the bail, it imposed a peculiar condition. As per the same, the husband was required to take his wife to his home and maintain her with dignity and honor. So, against this backdrop, the matter traveled the apex court. The court categorically opined that such a condition it cannot be imposed while granting anticipatory bail. Additionally, this condition should not be a reason for rejecting the appellant's petition. The name of this case is Kunal Chaudhary versus the state of Jharkhand. And this has brought us to an end of our TNA. In case you want to get access to the free study materials that we curate or the PDF that has been used in this video, please join our Telegram channel. And for the same, you may scan the barcode here or click on the link which is given in the description. The quiz is also made available in the description. Thank you for being with us.